Welcome and settle in. Imagine yourself floating in a quiet cabin where every surface feels familiar and every sound arrives like a hush. Out the window, the stars do not twinkle. They simply exist, steady and patient, as your small space tug drifts on long patrol. It is a slow journey by design, guided by careful numbers and simple routines, a long exhale stretched across a broad and silent sky. Before we drift any farther, if calm science and slow stories help you rest, please click like and subscribe. And if you want a seamless night, there is a playlist in the description that will keep the gentle rhythm going while you drift into sleep. What city country are you watching from right now? The cabin light is warm, low, a dim ember glow that softens edges and invites your eyelids to follow the same quiet curve. The seat belts rest like ribbons that never need to tug. You glide a hand along a foam rail, the fabric smooth and slightly textured, a reminder of grip in a world where the floor is wherever you decide it to be. Small fans whisper in a constant hush, moving the air to keep pockets from becoming still. You notice the faintest hint of metal and clean filters, a scent that makes you think of new rain on warm stone, though it is only air, water, and a touch of trace compounds that remind you that this vessel is alive in its own punctual way. You imagine the tug itself as a patient companion. Its solar arrays extend like pale wings, catching sunlight that arrives as a gentle pressure, a slow push that would be meaningless on a street or in a field. But out here, it adds up over hours and days. The tug's ion thrusters glow a small, steady blue when needed, a glow so faint that your eyes might barely sense it against the black. And yet the whispering stream of xenon atoms is precise and relentless. Each atom is nudged into speed and released, and that tiny nudge becomes a motion that accumulates. The gentle rhythm continues, measured in millimeters per second, measured in patience. A space tug is a practical creature. It ferries satellites to new homes or gently guides old hardware toward graveyard orbits. It nudges debris closer to capture and shepherds tired machines towards safer distances. It flies the humble legs of transport in the high, nearly invisible highways above Earth. Your tug on long patrol moves through cislunar space, perhaps lingering near the Earth-Moon Lagrange points, or pacing above geostationary orbit, where the ground below turns at the same rate that a satellite circles. The tug's path is a thin thread on a chart that no one looks at outside of a small group of navigators, and yet it is meaningful, connecting tasks in a schedule that is never hurried. You drift through it calmly, like a sleeper turning in blankets without waking. The ship's structure is both robust and feather-light. Its frame is a lattice of carbon composites and alloys made to shrug off small hits from tiny grains, wrapped in blankets that keep heat where it needs to be and allow it to leave where it must. The radiators unfold like pages of a notebook, white and softly reflective, presenting themselves to the darkness so that warmth can flow away. Your fingertips rest near a handhold as you look through a hatch toward the narrow corridor beyond. Panels are labeled with high-contrast symbols that make sense even when your eyes grow heavy. Velcro straps float along the edges, ready to catch a pen or a checklist whenever they try to drift free. A tablet drifts near your shoulder, tethered by a coil that looks like a piece of quiet music. On the console, numbers are gentle, and their meaning is not urgent. A navigation solution updates with the slow pulse of the clock. The computer has measured the tug's motion with star trackers that look outward to map recognizable patterns. Reaction wheels turn quietly, holding the ship steady without propellant. When the wheel's momentum builds up, small thrusters sigh once or twice, almost too softly to be noticed, pushing against nothing and everything at once, easing the wheels back down to calm. The gentle rhythm continues. The stars outside are not sharp points, but they feel that way, as if the glass itself has improved them. You pick out familiar constellations even though they do not twinkle here, since twinkle belongs to air and weather. The Milky Way is a faint band, a pale memory of clouds that are not clouds. If you are near the Earth, the planet returns often to the window, a blue and white curve that moves so slowly it barely seems to move at all. If you are higher, perhaps near a halo orbit around a Lagrange point, the Earth and Moon together are partners that drift around each other like dancers who have practiced for a very long time. Solar radiation pressure adds a gentle, constant nudge to the tug and to its arrays, and over weeks, the navigation team compensates with patient burns. In the quiet, forces that would be left out of a school problem become important, and every small, gentle effect is measured and learned. You think about the engines. Ion propulsion runs on patience. Xenon is stored in tanks, dense and heavy for such a noble element, and it is coaxed into the thrusters where electric fields do the delicate work. Grids create a path of acceleration that is invisible, and the neutralizer balances the charge at the exit so the exhaust does not call the ship back. The specific impulse is high, which simply means each unit of propellant produces a lot of change over time, especially when time itself is a resource. There is no plume roar, no fiery cone, only the soft humming of power conditioning units and the drift of numbers on a graph as delta V accumulates like grains of sand filling a jar. Hours become days, and a target orbit gradually comes into alignment, as if you and the tug were walking side by side with the celestial mechanics that wrote the map long before you arrived. Thermal life cycles through the tug like a tide. When the sun washes over the hull, a steady glow warms panels and rails. When the tug slips into eclipse, the darkness is not cold in the dramatic way people imagine, but it is cooler and more still, and heat leaves through radiators that are always sipping from the warm interior. Heat pipes move energy quietly, using fluid phase changes that are as gentle as breath. Electronics prefer a narrow band of temperatures, and so the ship keeps them comfortable with small heaters and careful insulation. You run a finger along the edge of a radiator faceplate, and you imagine the path that heat takes from a power unit to the darkness where photons carry it away, traveling at light speed as if heat itself liked to be free. You imagine the tug's tasks. A satellite too inclined drifts near a rendezvous point, and the tug approaches without ceremony. LiDAR paints the shape of the target with silent light. Radar returns data in faint echoes that the software composes into distance and relative motion. You watch two sets of numbers crawl toward each other as the guidance system aligns approach vectors. The tug uses a docking arm with a capture ring and soft bumpers that spread contact loads like a handshake. The closing speed is so slow that it feels like a still image, but instruments show it is happening. There is a small muted contact, and then the tug's thrusters flick just once, absorbing momentum and relaxing everything to a steady hold. No alarms, nothing abrupt, just a gentle arrival. You breathe with it, a long inhale, a long exhale, and the gentle rhythm continues. Long patrol means time changes shape. Your day is marked by small tasks that repeat with small variations. You check the xenon tank pressures. You note current draw from the power bus. You log the attitude control status and the health of reaction wheels. You examine the star tracker's bright pixel counts, watching for the subtle signs of a cosmic ray strike that the software quietly heals with error correction. You scroll through updates from the ground, not messages of urgency, but notes and plans, a checklist that walks at your speed. You perform a sensor calibration, covering a lens with a small cap that feels like a soft lid on a jar. You reseat a connector with a care that would look slow on Earth, but here it is simply the right tempo. You use your voice softly because it feels right, even though the tug does not need you to be quiet. The microphone picks up your commentary for the log. There are long spaces between your words, long enough for a listener to drift into a doze and awaken still within the same thought. The tug turns its long body with almost no sensation. If you are strapped to a seat, the straps tickle your shoulder when the ship rotates slowly to track the sun or to present a radiator to deep space. The arrays pivot with a silent grace, their sun sensors white and discreet. A small red LED blinks somewhere, the most restrained heartbeat imaginable. Communication windows arrive like appointments with a friend who never rushes. The Deep Space Network or similar ground stations arc their attention toward your coordinates, and the tug's antenna brings the Earth's voice into the room as a gentle stream of bits. Some sessions are X-band, some Ka-band, depending on antenna size and the finish of the link budget. Your voice is clipped to a standard bit rate so the pipeline remains healthy. Light time delay is not a burden at these distances, but the team on the ground is careful and you match their pace. You find comfort in the rituals. A two-tone beep acknowledges handshakes. A checksum passes without drama. The message queue empties, then fills again with the next care package you will open later, like a letter sliding from an envelope. Outside, solar weather is quiet most days. The tug carries shielding in layers, like a set of curtains. The Whipple shields are simple and elegant. Thin sacrificial layers spaced so that a small grain arriving fast will spread its energy broadly, becoming a harmless puff rather than a sharp, concentrated touch. Radiation is a fact of this domain, and the electronics are built for it, with redundancy and error correction, and sometimes a backup sitting cold and ready. The tug knows how to be patient while a subsystem resets itself, like someone waking, smoothing a wrinkled blanket, and returning to snooze. Your own body feels gently supervised by the ship's environmental controls. CO2 scrubbers work quietly, pulling the molecule from the air through sorbent beds that switch and bake to refresh. Humidity is measured and held within narrow limits so that metal and plastic and skin all remain content. Meals are small and unrushed. You open a pouch, add warm water, and wait for a moment, watching the mixture rehydrate as if it were a tiny toy returning to a quiet cove. The spoon is elastic tethered. Nothing floats away for long. You eat without urgency, tasting salt and warmth and the comfort of repetition. A crumb that tries to wander is guided back with a napkin. The smell of the meal is mild and soon leaves, gathered up by filters and fans, leaving only the clean scent of the cabin once more. You take sips of water from a pouch with a valve like a small smile, and you feel your throat relax. The tug sometimes lingers near geostationary orbit, moving slowly relative to the belt of satellites that keep watch over weather, communications, and broadcasting. When a satellite grows old, its operators plan a move to a graveyard orbit just a few hundred kilometers higher, where there is more room and less risk. The tug helps, giving a small push, perhaps towing with an adapter that attaches to a standard interface. The change in energy is real, but not dramatic, and the tug's low-thrust capability suits it well. Over hours and days, the old satellite rises to its new home, where it can stay safely for a long, quiet retirement. The tug then spirals back to the belt, ready to help another neighbor like a gentle caretaker in a library, guiding volumes to the right shelf with respect and precision. Plane changes are costly in propellant if done abruptly, but slow thrust can make them gentle, riding the long arc of patience to rotate the orbit's tilt by a small degree that means a lot to the schedule. The tug waits for the right place in its path, nudges gently, and then waits again, building shape from tiny strokes. Navigation software watches Doppler shifts and two-way ranging, blending these with star angles and gyroscopic senses in a filter that solves for truth. The ground models gravitational pulls from Earth's slightly uneven shape, the tug's own mass distribution, the gentle pressure of sunlight. This is not a battle to be won, but a dance to be rehearsed until the steps become second nature. The gentle rhythm continues. Sometimes your patrol takes you toward cislunar space. The Earth-Moon Lagrange points are places where gravity and motion balance in a way that allows orbits to hover with less effort. Halo orbits loop around these points like threads floating in slow water. Station keeping there involves understanding tiny drifts and countering them with small, almost ceremonial burns. The tug uses its thrusters sparingly, almost affectionately, waiting for the right phase of the loop to restore the planned shape. Instruments watch the moon's face grow and shrink as geometry changes, and you watch it as well, not because you need to, but because you enjoy the continuity the moon offers. Its gray surface remains quiet, its Maria like ancient ink stains that never fade. The tug glides on, and you feel the comfort of a task that does not demand noise. In the small hours, when sleep comes in cycles, you nestle into a sleeping bag that floats gently. Straps hold you like a calm hand. The bag itself breathes just enough to keep you comfortable. A pillow is optional in microgravity, but you tuck a soft wedge beneath your head for the familiar sensation of support. The light shift to a warmer color, a cue your brain appreciates. The fan's whisper is your lullaby. You close your eyes and imagine the tug continuing its long drift, engines quiet for now, and you smile at the idea that motion continues whether you're aware of it or not. you can surrender to that, letting go of the day's list, knowing that nothing will rush you awake. The gentle rhythm continues. When you wake, you feel rested and exactly where you intended to be, because the tug is steady. You float to the window and watch sunlight unfurl across a solar array. Its surface is a mosaic of cells that convert light into electron flow. Efficiency is not everything out here, but it is welcomed. The array's temperature rises, then remains steady. The power conditioning unit directs energy to batteries with a hum that sounds like distance itself. The batteries are modest in size and kind. They charge when the sun is a friend and release their stored quiet when the tug slips into shadow. There is no drama in this exchange, only a well-behaved curve that delights an engineer. You are part of the curve now, too, opening and closing your own senses with the day-night rhythm of orbit. You spend a while checking the tug's instruments in soft detail. Star trackers rely on a catalog of known patterns, measuring angles with high precision. Gyros provide a continuous sense of turning. GPS may help when near Earth, though high orbits ask for different tools, like two-way radio tracking with very long baseline arrays on the ground. A Kalman filter stitches all of these threads into a single, elegant cloth of confidence. If the filter grows uncertain, it says so in a number that climbs slowly, and you know to take a patient step, perhaps acquiring another measurement before making a change. It is a conversation in numbers, a back and forth that is never heated. The gentle rhythm continues. Later in the patrol, the tug might host a small capture of debris. The target is an empty upper stage or a panel of an old satellite, identified and tracked by radar networks that watch the sky. The tug approaches with the same care it uses for serviced satellites. A tether system unfurls with a net or an adhesive pad designed for gentle contact. With light pressure and careful timing, the tug secures the piece. There is no thud, no roughness. Motion is matched so well that the two objects become a single mass with a shared path. The tug backs away in pulses so small they feel like sighs, then coils the tether and prepares for the slow move to a disposal orbit. The hardware knows this is a small favor in the larger picture, but it is a meaningful one. Your body has adapted to weightlessness. Movements are slow by preference, and your limbs' memory now guides you to handholds and foot loops without conscious thought. You exercise gently, a set of elastic pulls and body weight motions reimagined for the environment. Joints move through their ranges with care. A small treadmill floats with shock absorbers, not to pound, but to remind muscles and bones that they still have work to do. The workout leaves you pleasantly warm and slightly flushed. You clean up with a no-rinse cloth, savoring the small refreshment of the cool fabric. Your clothes feel like a soft envelope against your skin. You breathe easily, and the tug's air remains a calm, supportive presence. In the communications log, you find a message from the ground that describes a gravity assist opportunity in poetic terms. A chance to use the moon's motion to reshape the tug's path with minimal propellant, as if catching a moving walkway for just a few steps. The mathematics is precise, but the sensation is simple. You plan a small correction burn days ahead, aligning the story so that the tug will pass near the moon at a careful altitude. The moonlight outside appears unchanged by your plans, steady and matte. When the time comes, the burn is a soft whisper from the thrusters. The track later shows that the tug's path has tilted by just the right amount, and the tug sighs its agreement in numbers you read like a bedtime story. Intervals of quiet are filled with small crafts. You polish a window's interior surface with a gentle cloth that feels like a cloud. You retape a floating cable so it returns to its neat path along a panel edge. You replace a filter cartridge with a fresh one that clicks into place with a friend's handshake. Your hands find joy in work that holds its own calm geometry. You update the mission log not with grand statements, but with small confirmations. Each line is like a bead added to a long string, a record of a well-kept room, traveling through a well-understood ski. You spend a little time contemplating the tug's fuel. The xenon is dense and noble, a gas that treats chemistry as a bystander. It sits in the tanks as heavy atoms waiting for a chance to become motion. The propellant feed system reads pressures and temperatures with calm sensors that report their values the way a river reports its width. The thruster power supply includes converters that reshape electricity gently, transforming the array's output into the measured waves that the grids demand. The neutralizer emits electrons to balance charge and ensure the exhaust does not build a static field that would tug at the ship. The grids are made of materials chosen for patients under ion bombardment, their lifetime measured in years if cared for. And they are cared for. The gentle rhythm continues. Sometimes a maintenance task asks you to venture into the airlock. The chamber is small but not cramped. Tools are organized, each in a soft pocket. Your suit waits, as light as a suit can be and still be what it must. You move slowly into it, sealing with a twist and a click that arrives like a conclusion to a quiet sentence. The air pumps down with a hush that becomes silence. Outside, the view is as total as ever. You hold onto a handrail and feel the slight vibration from a reaction wheel transmitted through the structure, a tremor too tiny to reach your ear but clear to your hand. You work on a radiator hinge, or perhaps you inspect a thruster, shining a light that makes surfaces glow as if with moonlight. Your motions are slow and careful. Even the tether that keeps you anchored moves with the grace of a sleeping cat's breath. When you return, you bring the outside with you for a moment, that sense of endlessness that is paradoxically calming. Then the hatch closes, the lock fills with air, and the cabin returns like a familiar melody. The tug's computing systems hold your attention next. Redundant processors, voting logic, graceful degradation strategies if the unit behaves oddly, and the habit of cross-checks that ensure truth by consensus. The code is not flashy, but stable and elegantly written. It reads like prose meant to be read aloud by a soft voice. It handles timing, checksums, error counters, the mundane miracles of digital life. The longer you stare, the more it feels like a well-worn path through a simple garden. The ground team has given you patches that you apply with ceremony. The new build boots quietly tests itself and nods back. You nod as well and make a small note in the log. The gentle rhythm continues. On your next window break, you find Earth again. Depending on the patrol's phase, Earth is a full marble with storm swirls and ocean gleam, or a thin crescent that looks like a curved shard of glass. You see night moving across continents like a curtain drawn at a measured speed. You imagine the soft domestic hush of many rooms, many beds, many kitchens going still. The auroras are faintly visible near the poles, their greenish curtains dancing slowly, though they make no sound. In the far distance beyond the moon, the sun bathes everything in light that has traveled across so much emptiness. You can almost feel it on your cheek, though the window, the ship, and your suit have managed that light for you with great care. You consider the ethics and etiquette of a long patrol. The tug's mission is service and stewardship, not conquest. It checks orbits, eases transitions, and cleans edges where possible. Space is vast, and yet near Earth it is a neighborhood where care matters. You take comfort in being part of such a careful practice. The smallness of each act does not diminish it. If anything, it increases its gentleness. There is no headline, no loud announcement, just the continuous work of keeping watch and resolving tiny mismatches between intention and reality. These are the kinds of labors that help people sleep well on the ground, even if they never know about them. You know, and that is enough. In the mid-watch, when your mind is open and unhurried, you listen to the low, fluted hum of the tug's power electronics. The tone is almost musical, a long vowel held by an unseen choir. You notice tiny changes as loads shift. When a heater clicks on, the pitch rises by a hair. When a sensor powers down, the sound slightly dips. You could learn the health of the ship by ear alone if you had enough nights with this gentle chorus. It is the lullaby of a system made to be stable. It escorts your thoughts like a river under a footbridge. You can stand and watch for a long time, and nothing insists that you hurry. You carry a small notebook that is both digital and paper, a hybrid tool that reflects a preference for redundant comfort. You write with a soft pencil lead that glides smoothly. The graphite leaves a line that glows slightly in the warm cabin light. You draw a simple diagram of the tug's trajectory relative to the moon, not because the computer needs your drawing, but because your brain likes the intimacy of pen and path. You draw the halo orbit like a loose ring. You draw the gravity assist as a shallow bend in the road. You add tiny arrows to show the direction of drift. You include the date, then underline it with a smooth stroke. You turn the page and breathe, and the gentle rhythm continues. You consider the navigation beacons that your tug reads. Some are stars unchanging within human lifetimes. Some are radio beacons, purposeful instrument tones that reveal range and rate through their shifts. An optical sensor can also find the sun's round face and keep it centered or hidden, depending on the attitude plan. The tug likes to present its radiators to darkness and its arrays to the light. So the attitude plan is a slow dance of turns that keeps both needs met. Occasionally, a block of time is set aside to perform a slow roll that warms a patch or lets a camera view a region of sky used for calibration. These rolls are so slow that you almost cannot feel them, but the change in the view tells you it is there, a gentle tumble that complements the idea of being a small, patient traveler. You drink tea from a pouch with a straw. The tea is not as hot as on Earth because safety and comfort argue for moderate warmth, but it is enough. You taste a hint of chamomile and feel your shoulders release a small knot. You let your knees float and vent. You watch a tiny bubble move in your straw and think about surface tension. In a world without weight, water gathers into spheres because the surface favors itself. This is how it behaves in space, elegant and inevitable. You imagine honey doing the same thing, gathering into thick, glossy beads that move lazily. The microgravity is not strange anymore. It is simply the way things are, like rain on a roof that is made to handle it. On the next pass, the tug's sensors notice a small drift in the orbit period that the plan had predicted, but not yet compensated. The guidance system requests a correction, a burn so small it could be mistaken for a hiccup. You schedule it with a keystroke. The thrusters whisper at the planned second. A set of numbers shifts, the math calmly agreeing that the correction is complete. The ship returns to its quiet hum. You note the burn's duration, propellant mass used, and a new estimate for the next maintenance on a thruster module. Each line of the log is a heartbeat, gentle and steady. The gentle rhythm continues. You begin to tell yourself a small story about the tug. In your story, the tug has a personality that is not alive but feels present. It is modest, slightly proud of its tidy systems and fond of routine. It never interrupts. It prefers to glide rather than dart. It appreciates that the universe is big and will remain big regardless of any one mission. Its favorite thing is a calibration that matches the prediction so well that the residuals plot looks like a smooth line, as if a breeze has pressed a sheet of paper against a table. If the tug had a window to look inward, it would find you and be content that you also like such clean lines. You smile at this thought, and it keeps you company like a silent friend does, without requiring anything in return. You carry out a camera check on an optical sensor mounted on a small gimbal. Its focus is firm. Its star catalog is up to date. A few hot pixels are held in a map that the software knows to ignore. The dark current is low. You set it to take a series of images of a region used by astronomers for calibration as well. The images come in with stars arranged like pinheads placed on velvet. You blink slowly while looking at them. Your brain gradually stops parsing technical details and simply enjoys the stillness they imply. You transfer the files later during the next pass with a high bandwidth link. For now, the pictures live locally, quietly perfect and uninterested in whether anyone else will ever see them. A call for a microburn arrives from the ground, and you plan it for a window when the tug's solar arrays will be well suited for power stability. The plan calls for a slight yaw to protect a sensor from direct sunlight during the burn. You enter the yaw target and the allowed rate, and the tug acknowledges with a soft chime. You watch the rate again. The ship glides into position with a patience that you admire each time. When the burn begins, the numbers track together as if they prefer each other's company. The burn ends within a tolerance that feels like an artist's signature, the small flourish that tells you humans and machines collaborated kindly. You imagine the ship's radiators as gardens of heat. Each panel quietly emits a flow of infrared light that carries away the energy that cannot stay. If you could see in those wavelengths, the panels would glow gently against the black. You think of the word emissivity, a measure of how well a surface can radiate. It is a word that sounds like a lullaby when spoken slowly. The radiator's paint and surface finish are chosen to maximize emission and minimize absorption where it matters. This is not drama. It is a well-planned routine. The panels do their work, and you do yours, and both are as unhurried as tea cooling in a porcelain cup. At times, your mind wanders to Earth. You imagine coastlines and forests, the patterned fields of agriculture, the towns where streetlights form constellations of their own. You think about seas that push and pull with tides, about mountains that spend centuries moving a handful of centimeters, about glaciers melting and freezing in cycles that are slow enough to make even your patrol feel quick. The tug cannot smell the sea or feel the breeze, but it can sense the Earth's gravity field as a complex melody with slight variations in strength, a track that shows mass concentrations and continental shapes like bumps under a blanket. The ground models these details in the gravity harmonics used by navigation software, and you appreciate the care that goes into the numbers. It is another form of listening, another type of attention that makes your work possible. A thirst for quiet knowledge arrives like a lullaby stanza. You open a reference manual that lives on the ship's memory, a well-written text about orbital mechanics. Its words read like stones set into a calm pathway, each one stable underfoot. You lean back and let a sentence wash over you. It describes an orbit as a conic section of momentum and gravity, a simple curve drawn by the steady exchange between falling and moving sideways. It says that a Hohmann transfer is the most efficient path between two circular orbits in the same plane, and it draws a neat ellipse that connects both rings with two burns, though your tug's low thrust makes the path more like a slow spiral. You close your eyes and picture the spiral not as a tight coil, but as a wide, shallow slope, like a ramp around a quiet hill. The gentle rhythm continues. Between tasks, you sometimes listen to a recording of shoreline waves from Earth, a sound that used to reach you on days off and now reaches you here as a benevolent memory. The tug's systems do not mind. They continue their hum as if accompanying the waves with a bass note. The wave sounds mixed with the fan and the power electronics to create something like a choir. Your breathing becomes part of the music. Your mind drifts and returns, like a tide in a shallow bay. You consider the fact that your brain is designed to soothe itself with rhythms, and you give it the rhythms it likes. You find that sleepiness greets you like an old friend, not soon perhaps, but reliably. Time to prepare another small rendezvous. The target is a chemical propulsion satellite with a modest inclination error. Its station-keeping fuel is nearly exhausted, so the tug will lend a hand. The approach is described by a relative navigation frame called Hill's frame, where the origin is at the target and axes are aligned with its orbit. Relative motion behaves in specific ways in this frame. Up is radial, forward is a long track, and side is cross-tracked. The tug uses this frame to understand how to drift closer gently, how to stop the drift at the right moment, and how to slide sideways with a whisper of thrust. You let the autopilot step through these motions while you watch, ready to take over, but not expecting to. The docking adapter nests with the satellite's prepared ring. A soft capture box engages. Latches move like soft clicks of an instrument case closing. Then the system declares hard capture and everything rests. You smile and you breathe, and the gentle rhythm continues. The tug's mass properties change a little when it captures something. The center of mass slides and inertia changes. The attitude control learns the new values with a measured set of test pulses. Reaction wheels respond. Thrusters are recalibrated for slightly new moments. You watch a polar plot of wheel torque capability and find that it looks like a flower with rounded petals, symmetrical and calm. The system decides which wheel now carries a bit more workload and which can rest. The entire process is a form of listening to the ship's body. You feel a small kinship with it, as if stretching to find balance after holding a new object in your arms. Operations continue with the new companion attached. The tug Pira forms a gentle spiral, converting sunlight and time into velocity change. The days pass, each one carrying a few centimeters per second of progress. You never have to hurry, because the plan never asks it of you. The ground team sends you updated predictions that match the actual path with slight differences that are always within expectation. You send them voice notes in return, soft updates that feel like postcards. You speak about the health of the ship and the quietness of the night. You describe a shooting star you thought you saw, though out here it is more likely a piece of something else, an ephemeral spark. The team replies with their own calm tones, proud to be collaborating with such a patient mission. In a lull, you consider the tug's safety margins. A pre-planned set of safe modes sits ready. If a sensor turns silent, a backup takes its seat. If a wheel refuses to turn, thrusters stand ready to assist. If a power unit becomes warm or quiet, the ship can reconfigure and breathe through a different lung. None of these are fears for you. They are sources of comfort, like extra blankets folded in a chest at the foot of a bed. Knowing they are there helps you sleep, helps you trust the gentle routine. The tug trusts them too, and that mutual trust is the unseen gravity of this life. A calendar alert appears, reminding you of a mid-mission systems checkout. You follow each step slowly. Memory scrub, communications loop back, thermal control calibration, attitude sensor cross-compare, battery capacity test at a mile depth of discharge. You hum a tune under your breath. The checklist's boxes fill with green, understated like a nod. The entire process takes hours, but feels shorter than a coffee break because every step is simple and kind. When it ends, you stretch in your seat and let your feet lift off the foot loops, floating a bit higher. You drift to the window and see nothing urgent, only the slow rotation of the sky. The gentle rhythm continues. Now and then a single cosmic ray will create a small sparkle on a sensor or a transient blip in a memory unit. The system catches it and corrects it. You might see a pixel flare in a star tracker image, a tiny dot that does not belong to the sky. The software file applies a mask, and the dot is forgotten. You watch the process once or twice with interest, then let it fade into the background of normal operations. It becomes another part of the ship's heartbeat, regular and harmless. In the depth of night on board, when your body knows it can relax, you wonder what it means to feel safe in a place that is vast and quiet. Safety here is not a fence, but a set of habits. It is checklists and redundant systems. It is the way you put a tether on a tool before you let it float. It is knowing the microphones can hear you if you call softly. It is trusting that the floor will always be beneath you, even if the floor is a panel overhead and the wall is a window. Safety is made of 1,000 gentle decisions, none of them difficult, all of them steady. You make them, and you fall asleep with a quiet pride, a calm that spreads like warm light under a door. In the middle of this long drift, you remember the first time you heard the term station keeping. It sounded to you like holding still, but now you know it is a dance of small impulses that keep a convenient illusion. The orbit slips a little, and you guide it back. The plane twists a degree, and you untwist. The tug's position relative to a partner shifts for reasons that are obvious on a plot and invisible to the eye, and you let a gentle push coax it to where the plan suggests. Your days are stitched together by these corrections, these almost invisible acts of kindness to the path itself. The gentle rhythm continues. Still awake? Comment the secret word nebula. With that tiny invitation released into the world, your mind returns to the tug's small rituals. The tug's clock, synced carefully to a standard that lives on Earth, pulses with precision. The time speaks for itself, and you follow it casually, an anchor to a home you keep in your heart. You install a small update to the navigation database, a revised solar flux prediction that adjusts how the software will model atmospheric drag if the patrol dips low enough for a hint of it. Even the highest orbits above Earth can feel a faint breath of atmosphere during certain cycles, and the tug's large surfaces notice. The update takes effect without ceremony. It belongs with the others, a small piece of a large, slow conversation. You stroll mentally through the tug's interior again. There is a small nook where you keep a book and a photograph. The book is a quiet one, full of drawings of machines that did not speak but listened. The photograph shows a horizon from a hilltop at dusk. It brings you the smell of dry grass every time you look at it, even though smell is something the tug produces in its own controlled, filtered way. You tuck your toes into the edge of a cushion and let yourself balance there like a perch on a branch. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine a breeze that does not exist here, and you smile. Occasionally, the tug points a sensor toward the Earth, not for navigation, but for calibration against a known bright source. The Earth's brightness in certain bands is well studied. The measurements come in, smooth curves with tiny noise. The models adjust their settings. You think of the Earth as not only a home, but as a useful lamp, a test pattern. The moon has similar uses, its reflectivity known and reliable in ways that help sensors behave. The tug and the ground find reassurance in this familiarity. It is another example of how spaceflight is a practice as much as a technology, a daily yoga of small adjustments that favor balance. If your patrol includes days near the terminator over Earth, where day meets night, the views are extraordinary in a very quiet way. You see the line of shadow moving across oceans, Cloud tops glowing in the late light with pink and gold hints, city lights timidly turning on in vast, friendly clusters. You do not rush to the window to catch these scenes. You happen to be there, and you let them happen to you, with the same calm acceptance you give to numbers on a screen. You are not on a sightseeing tour, and yet you are a witness. You carry this witness in your memory, the way one carries a favorite song's bridge, a piece that always pleases but never demands attention. There is a small maintenance procedure for your suit today. You check seals, wipe visor surfaces with a gentle cloth, and cycle the fans briefly. The suit's materials are designed to be tolerant of time and small exposures, and you treat them kindly, like a favorite sweater. Afterwards, you seal the suit again into its storage place. You pat it gently, even though it doesn't feel. It is a ritual that tells you that the things that keep you safe are seen and appreciated. The ship hums in agreement, as if a faint note rises in pitch as a smile. A window of ground contact opens over a station that sits in a desert. The data link feels clean and robust. You transfer a set of high-resolution images of the tug's radiators taken during your last exterior inspection. The ground engineers do not rush. They glance at thermal signatures, listen to bearing noise captured from a sensor, and return a short message of gratitude. You can almost feel their careful hands and open notebooks, even though they are far away. You send a brief description of what the ship sounds like tonight. There is a pause. Then a reply arrives with a comment about how the evening wind sounds at their location, just to share. You both smile at the idea of sharing winds that are different and yet related by the same physics. You recall the tug's capture mechanism again. It has soft capture and hard capture phases. Soft capture is guided, gentle, allowing small errors in alignment and speed. Hard capture secures with latches that can bear loads over long periods. The interface was designed to allow many such meetings without wear or fuss. There is something graceful about that. Machines that meet often must be kind to each other. You imagine two little musicians aligning bows, then playing a duet that requires no conductor, just listening. The gentle rhythm continues. When you inspect the ion thruster module housing, you think of the intricacy hidden within. There are hollow cathodes that emit electrons. There are discharge chambers where ions are born from neutral xenon. There are grids that hum with a potential difference that gives each ion its push. There is a neutralizer that threads electrons back into the exhaust, keeping charge balanced so the exhaust behaves like a courteous guest, never clinging. The vacuum itself is the perfect exhaust manifold. The tug pushes against nothing and moves anyway, which still feels almost like magic, though it is just physics and patience. You rest your palm on the panel above the thruster and feel warmth, not heat. A contented pulse of energy moving out into the cold. Occasionally, the tug uses a cold gas thruster for quick, simple impulses that are too small to require firing an ion engine, or when a clean, immediate response is needed for an attitude tweak. The gas is inert, chosen for behavior that is predictable. The nozzle is tiny, the valves precise. The pressure falls by a whispering fraction, and the tug's attitude moves by a fraction of a degree, the sensors confirm. The log acknowledges. The tug rests again. These small touches belong to a family of moves that all share the same character, assured but not insistent. If you place your ear closer to a coolant line, you can make out a faint sound that is more sensation than noise. The line carries fluid that moves heat from components to the radiators, and under certain flow rates, you can feel a tiny ripple. It is like listening to your own blood vessel in a quiet room. There is no danger in the sound. It is a mark of life. You trace the line with your eyes, noticing the careful insulation and the tidy clamps that secure it to structure. Everything that can be rounded is rounded. Everything that can be padded is padded. Any sharp edge would not belong here, not in a place made to coax sleep from the stars. On one day, the tug receives a request to observe a small cube satellite that has lost its orientation reference. The tug is not a telescope, but it carries sensors that can help. You adjust the attitude plan and sweep the field where the small satellite should be. After a calm interval, the camera finds a glint. The guidance computes the tiny relative motion. You report the location and vector to the ground, and someone somewhere is relieved. There is no applause, just a short note of thanks and a small correction in the cube's orbit a few days later that shows it has regained its footing in the sky. It is a neighborly act in a neighborhood where neighborliness is measured in meters and meters per second, and the shared desire to keep things in order. When the tug's batteries go through a planned equalization, you monitor cell voltages as they rise and settle. The graph looks like a family of curves, all approaching a plateau with minor differences that smooth out over time. You whisper a small encouragement as you watch. There is no need, but it feels like a good habit. The final float phase begins, and you check off the step. The tug rewards your attention with nothing more than continued good behavior, which is exactly what you have come to love. The gentle rhythm continues. On your next rest cycle, you float and pull a blanket around your shoulders, even though temperature is managed. It is a reminder of home, and its weightless drape feels like a cloud. You listen to your own breathing, the ship's whisper, and the silence beneath both. Sleep arrives slowly, like a boat coming into a harbor with no wind. You picture buoys marking the channel, quiet bells that ring very softly as if in your memory. When you wake, you have no sense that anything has demanded anything from you. The tug has been a gentle guardian of your rest. You let your mind follow the path of one photon that leaves a radiator, traveling into the dark. It will continue at light speed for as long as the universe forgives, perhaps meeting dust and warming it by a fraction. You consider the path of a xenon atom as it is ionized, accelerated, and released, the member of a long train of atoms that together push the tug forward. Time stretches behind each of these with no complaint. You realize that the scale of your actions is both tiny and grand. It is a comfortable thought. You sip water and let it be. As the patrol moves into a new phase, the schedule calls for you to leave a small payload at an intermediate orbit. You align with a node on the orbit where the plane intersects the equator. You nudge to match the target's path and release with care. The payload wakes up slowly and blinks a status light that you see just once before it becomes too small to see. You send a note to the ground and rotate the tug to place the sun behind a radiator again. You think about all the small objects that are doing simple jobs at this very moment, quietly keeping a world connected. It makes you feel part of a larger, kinder picture. There is a moment of meditation where you let the tug's frame become something like a body for your own awareness. You imagine you are the arrays, feeling light pressure as warmth. You imagine you are the radiators, letting go of heat like a long breath. You imagine you are the thrusters, satisfied with every steady blue whisper. You imagine you are the star tracker, finding familiar patterns in any direction. You imagine you are the reaction wheel, holding steady until asked to share momentum and then releasing it like a smile. You imagine you are the keyboard where your hands rest, cool and responsive. You feel at home. You receive a scheduling note from the ground suggesting a short contact with a research satellite that wants to borrow your tug's short-range radios for a calibration. It will be a passive flyby with no docking. You plan the approach meticulously, though the margin is wide. On the day you see the research satellite slide through the window, a small, tidy system with slender booms. It speaks to your receiver, and your receiver listens. The numbers align. The calibration is complete. Both craft continue, neither demanding the other's attention. Again, you feel the preference for calm that the space environment encourages, and you find it nourishing. Looking at the stars again, you pick a pair and imagine drawing a line between them with your pencil. You think about the distances involved, the years that light took to arrive, and then you let that thought drift away. You do not need to hold it. It rests in the background like the gentle knowledge that the ocean is deep. It does not make your day heavy. It simply provides context. You return to the panel where a small process has completed and acknowledge its success, a small check mark in a square that holds more meaning than its size. When a slight anomaly arises in a temperature reading, you follow a quiet protocol. You check the sensor calibration table and compare it with an independent reading. You allow a small heater to change its output by a minor percentage. You watch the response. The temperature returns to its expected value. You note that it may have been a transient or a sensor drift. You flag it for future attention. You do this without worry and without the slightest spike in your heart. You have done this before and will do it again. Your calm becomes a component of the system, as important as any piece of metal. If you lean a little and press your forehead to the window, you can see the tug's shadow on its own body, a crisp, small silhouette, elbowed and angled like a paper model. When the sun is at certain angles, the arrays cast stripes that move slowly, reminding you of blinds in a quiet room on a sunny afternoon. You watch the stripes crawl gently over a panel and then move on. You follow the stripes' progress with your finger, tracing it across a label, across a small screw head that catches light. The details are not trivial. They are part of the language of this play. You think about the classic orbital energy equation and then choose not to think about it. It is enough to know that you are further along, that your periapsis and apoapsis are where they should be, that your period matches a plan that does not demand exactness for its own sake, only for the sake of the mission's small kindnesses. You consider that too much precision can be a kind of hurriedness, and you smile at the elegance of this mission's sense of enough. The parameters are kept within soft bounds that respect fuel, time, and the humans who keep watch. Another maintenance day brings a focus on the tug's software logs. You skim through them with eyes that can now find patterns without thinking. A repeated timing offset that used to pull your attention now makes sense as a known quirk. An occasional packet retry looks like a wave on a lake. Event counters march along at paces that make sense. You archive the logs, compressing them into a bundle that feels like packing a small suitcase for a trip you are already on. You send them to the ground and keep a copy. You add an entry to the documentation that explains a subtlety you noticed about a sensor response during rapid temperature transitions. Your words are unhurried and clear. You have written them like a letter to a friend who will read them at night, perhaps after a cup of tea. On a quiet shift, you check the tug's micrometeoroid detectors. They are simple systems that listen for tiny impacts on plates. The logs show a few small events with energies that match dust grains within expected rates. The structure is unbothered. You run a structural health summary, which uses small vibrations seen by sensors to infer whether any part has changed in stiffness, a small check on the ship's bones. The plot aligns with past summaries. You nod slowly, not surprised, but satisfied. The tug is sound, time to stretch. You float with your toes under a strap and reach your arms to fingertips against the ceiling. You rotate at the hips just a small amount. You tilt your head until your neck releases a micro knot. You draw a slow breath in, then out. You count to 4 with each inhale and exhale, not as a rule, but as a comfort. The fans keep whispering. A panel LED blinks. A data packet moves across a bus. You feel the ship's many small lives harmonizing like a choir of crickets in a field you once knew. The gentle rhythm continues. As the patrol nears another discrete assignment, you inventory the tug's supplies. Xenon mass remaining is carefully recorded. Cold gas reserves are healthy. Hydration packs are in good supply. Filters are midway through their expected lives. You schedule a filter change, not because it is urgent, but because it will feel pleasant to do it on a day when the schedule is light. You arrange the new filters neatly, their packaging crisp, their labels clear. You line up tools, even though they never hide from you. This is a simple joy, a bit of housekeeping that turns a cabin into a home. Late in the evening, you remember a quiet detail about old satellites near geostationary orbit. Some drift slowly due to gravitational influences from the moon and sun, and the irregular shape of Earth's mass causes small shifts in longitude over time, tending to gather objects into clusters near stable longitudes. Operators like to keep them in place, but when fuel runs low, a slow drift begins, like a leaf finding the quiet corner of a pond. Your tug can help restore or guide these drifts in measured moves that take days and never jostle. It is restful to watch such a drift reversed, like watching a tide fill a cove where small boats have waited patiently. A scheduled sun sensor calibration asks you to roll the tug slowly so that the sensor sees the sun move across its field at a known rate. You begin the roll with a barely perceptible rotation. The sun's image slides. The sensor reports voltages that you recognize by pattern more than value. The calibration routine fits a curve. The offset is updated. The roll stops with a tiny nudge from a thruster. You look up and think you felt nothing, and you probably did. But you saw everything you needed to see. The gentle rhythm continues. You become aware of a small piece of art adhered to a panel near the hatch. Someone placed it there long ago, a simple line drawing of a bird in smooth black ink. The bird looks as if it is gliding, wings fixed in a long, effortless span, not flapping. It is the right image for this place. You touch it gently and return your hand to the rail. You have the sense that many others have seen this bird and found some calm in it. The tug does not care about the drawing, but it accommodates it with the same equanimity it affords every gentle thing you bring aboard. A routine called quiet soak appears on your list. During this, certain systems are held steady to gather baseline performance without disturbance. No thrusters, no wheel desaturation, no heater changes unless they are absolutely necessary. The cabin grows even quieter, if that is possible. You sit in this quiet and let it soak into you as well. Your pulse slightly slows. Your eyelids become heavy, then heavy again. The soak ends after an hour. The tug's logs show lines so straight they almost disappear into the page. It is the beauty of nothing happening as planned. The tug's mission plan includes an end of patrol handoff. When your long loop reaches a convenient point, another vehicle will take over a segment of service while your tug recharges, updates, and receives a few new components. You prepare for this by organizing certain data sets and by giving the tug a clean cabin. You place tools back with a mild sense of ceremony. You wipe the panels with a soft cloth that moves dust that mostly never could gather simply because there is no gravity to encourage it, and because the filters are very good. The cloth still finds a few small places to do its gentle work. You tell the ship a quiet thank you. It does not need to hear it, but saying it helps you feel aligned with your own kindness. A last series of micro burns comes and goes. Each is like the end of a sentence in a paragraph you have been writing together for weeks. You savor the punctuation. The final orbit analysis shows the tug right where it should be, with propellant margins healthier than expected, which always feels like a small gift. The ground team sends a note that uses the word graceful. You accept that word and tuck it away in your memory. As the patrol enters its final watch, you prepare to drift still more softly into rest. You secure any loose items, though loose items rarely dare to be anything but respectful. You dim the lights. You run one last systems glance with a calm eye. The tug answers in all the usual ways. The fans sing, the radiators glow invisibly, the arrays quietly gather day. The structure holds steady like a sleeping cat on a windowsill. You let your body settle into the sleeping bag, the straps like an embrace. You close your eyes and see the window's quiet rectangle in memory, the stars that do not twinkle, the earth that turns without asking your permission. You allow sleep to arrive not as an event, but as a continuation, an extension of the same gentle rhythm that has guided your day. Even here, at the end of a long patrol, There is no finale in the dramatic sense. There is only a return, a soft landing into normal life that feels as much like the ship's hum as it does like a human sigh. You press a button and the log notes the end of patrol. You whisper a few words to the recorder that are more poetry than prose because that is what this place suggests to your mouth. You listen to your voice play back and decide it is enough. The tug will continue to be cared for, and you will continue to be part of a team that knows how to move quietly through a large and patient universe. As you return to the present moment, wherever you are listening from, remember that there is no need to hurry. Your breath is your thruster now, a small, steady push that carries you where you intend to go. Your bed is your cabin. Your room's dim light is a sunrise that waits for you whenever you want it. You are safe, supported by routines that keep you well. If this gentle drift kept you company, we would be grateful if you left a like and subscribed, so we can keep releasing these calm voyages as often as we do. Rest well, feel comfortable, and let the quiet of the long patrol carry you into sleep. The gentle rhythm continues.